when you think of the N64 games, so I'm not necessarily asking what are your favorite N64 games. I'm asking what are the first N64 games you think of when if you're like out hanging out and somebody talks about the N64, what are the first couple games that'll come to your mind?
So immediately Smash Bros, right? Because that is like, again, when we had the Smash Bros episode, that commercial where they're all the grown people dressed in those big ass costumes, you and me and you, like that whole thing. That was, I remember being a kid and seeing that commercial. So Smash Bros is a really big deal for me. My friends, we played it every single day for a long time.
Yep.
So I think about Smash Bros a lot. I think about Ocarina of Time a lot because there was a period where I didn't know what the fuck I was doing in Ocarina of Time when I was
Yes.
really, really young. And then I don't know what happened, but I guess I got smarter and I got older and I went back to it and I was able to just like beat the entire game, start to finish, didn't need a strategy guide, just kind of using intuition, was able to like go through the entire Ocarina of Time and find everything. I'm talking about getting the ice arrow, like everything, like all the secret areas, um, the fire arrow, like shooting the sun, getting the fire arrow, like just doing I felt like everything that you could do I basically was able to do and get the big Goron sword, like securing that.
Yeah. Something funny about Ocarina of Time, you mentioned like you struggled on that game a lot, right? I
Yeah.
remember having that game and basically every time I got to the point where you would become an adult, restarting the game because I guess it was like too hard for me or whatever. Like when I was a
Yeah.
kid, I remember just not being able to beat the Forest Temple, and so I'd get to the Forest Temple and I would erase my save, and then I would start over from the beginning. And I replayed the first beginning of that game so many times. Right, I was never able to progress, and then one day this kid on my block, he was older than me. I think I might have talked about him on the Pokemon episode. I don't remember. But if I didn't, the real quick story is this is the same kid that I had a Kadabra when Pokemon Red, and he was like,
Stole
"Oh
your
yeah,
Pokemon.
you can like if you trade it, that's how it evolves in Alakazam. Like trade it to me and I'll trade it back." So I traded him my Kadabra, and then he just unplugged the link cable. He was like, "You're beat," and I was like, "Oh, cool." And he was like old. He was like 5 years older than me. What could I do about it? Anyway, I let him borrow my Ocarina of Time, and he didn't steal it. He actually gave it back. But I let him borrow my Ocarina of Time at one point, and he beat the game, and then I got it back. And so, funny story, I actually beat the final boss of Ocarina of Time before beating Ocarina of Time. What I mean by that is he beat the game, his save file was still on there, and I remember his character's name was Steven. And I remember I booted up his save, and it was
Yeah.
like the very end of the game, and he was at Ganon. And so, using his save, I fought Ganon. And I remember one thing that was so cool and having so much fun, but also hating it so much because it said like the part where Ganon's trying to like kill you, Navi's like, Steven, I can't help you. And like
Yeah.
instead of it saying Link. And that was one of the biggest things that motivated me to go back and actually beat the game myself and
Yeah. Get
learn
that shit done on
and
your
beat it
own.
my own. Yeah.
You know, it's funny you say that. I didn't recall this memory, but you brought it back to the forefront of my mind. When I was a kid, my dad had a friend named Boo who was our barber. He was like a house barber, so my dad would call him over. He would come cut our hair, but he would also play my dad in like Madden and shit like that. He would beat my ass in Tekken, and he also was a mastermind in like every other game. Like basically, this was a guy who was a nerd but an adult, and I didn't realize it until like he one time I I don't know if he left his Zelda cartridge at my house or he let me borrow it, but his Ocarina of Time file, I had access to it, and it was the same exact thing you're describing.
Yeah.
I loaded up his file, and his name was Boo, like BOO, and it literally loaded up at the bottom of the temple or the castle where you fight Ganon. So Ganon
Yep.
is above, and you can hear Ganon charging up that light attack that he does and throwing it, and like you obviously when you're far below, you can't get hit by it, or maybe you can, but like you just kind of run around.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you have to climb up, and then that's where you can like fight Ganon. That's the final battle. So every time you load his file, it started off right there. You could just leave out and then go explore the world. And I remember doing that, and I remember seeing like the world is really fucked up because this is before I even became an adult in my own game. So this is like my introduction to Ocarina of Time. So
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
like leave out, and everything is like dreary and dark, and the world looks terrible. I'm like, what the? Why is his save file so like evil? Like, what the hell happened in
What
this
the
game?
fuck
Because like
happened?
as a kid, like things are a lot nicer looking, And then when you send yourself 7 years into the future, everything looks awful. You get those like zombie things and all that. A
Those
lot
things
of
are
the towns are built.
so fucking scary when you're a kid.
Yes. When you're a kid, like a lot of the places honestly scared the fuck out of me.
Because also, like, they freeze the screen. Like, you can't move. It's like,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And, oh
Yeah.
my God, they're so scary.
I don't know why they put that effect into the game where you just get frozen like that, but that shit is not okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have this similar experience where I basically saw the end of the game before I ever really played the game.
Same. What's cool is that even though you see the very end, it doesn't spoil the rest of the game. Like, I didn't know that didn't make it so that I knew how to beat all the other temples or even knew what they were.
Yeah.
It was just
I don't
something
even know
that
how to beat
inspired me to, like, yeah, same. It's just something that inspired me to go back and really run through it. As crazy as this may sound, it's like, if it's not my favorite N64 game, it's in my top 3. Star Fox 64, dude,
Can you describe what you did in that game? Because I don't know anything about Star Fox.
I fucking played that game to death. So it's an on-rails shooter. So essentially, in a way, it's similar to a game like House of the Dead. If you've ever gone to like an arcade.
Oh, I love those games.
Yeah, you play House of the Dead.
You literally pick up the gun and you like shoot at the screen.
Yeah. But like you don't have free movement to walk around. You're like the game like moves in a direction.
Yeah, like you don't have a choice. Yes.
Yeah, and you're shooting. So Star Fox is kind of like that. Obviously, it's on the 64, so it doesn't have like a gun attachment. But you're in your R-wing, and like you can control like your height and on the screen, but you're moving on a path. You're on rails.
Yeah.
And you're shooting all of the enemies and all the shit that's coming, and then you have your co-pilots, Peppy, Slippy, and Falco flying around with you. You go through the missions, you clear the missions, kill a bunch of enemies, and at the end you fight a boss. And it's a really short game. If you know how to play it, like, you can beat Star Fox 64 in an hour or 2 hours. It's very much an arcade game, but what gives it so much replayability is that there are branching paths. There's a whole bunch of different branching pathways, and it's like a high score type of game, and it's a fully voice acted. And on the N64 era, that was very fucking rare.
That is huge. Yeah.
So as you're playing, like, Fox, Falco, and Slippy, they're all talking shit. Like, Slippy's like, Fox, help me! And then, like, you save them, and Fox is like, I got you, Slip. Slippy's like, thanks, Fox. I thought they had me. And then, like, Falco flies by, and he's like, if you accidentally shoot Falco, he's like, hey, Einstein, I'm on your side. Like, so they're just talking shit the whole time.
I've heard a lot of those Star Fox lines be memed to death. Like, so I've never played the game, but I've heard the Rabbit speaking before. I've heard Falco speaking before.
Yeah.
I've heard Fox. I've heard a lot of the lines from the game without ever having played the game. So there must be like a lot of memeable lines from that shit.
You do. So, I mean, the internet, one of the oldest memes before they were called memes, do a barrel roll.
Is that from Star Fox?
Yeah, that's Peppy. Do a barrel roll. Like, that's from Star Fox 64.
Oh, shit.
So,
you know there's a Yu-Gi-Oh card called Do a Barrel Roll?
No way.
Yes, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. I just sent it to you on Discord.
All right, let me look at that real quick. Oh shit! And it's like a little Star Fox spaceship thing.
It's blatant. Like, it's very blatant. It's literally called Do a Barrel Roll. Like, you can't mistake it for anything else.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's what's up.
And it's a counter trap. But yeah, I didn't know that came from Star Fox. So that's something interesting to know.
Yeah, that came from Star Fox. I, at a time, knew I could recite the entire script of that game as I'm playing through. I've played it so many times. Like I said,
and you said it's short too.
It's like an hour to 2 hours long. But what's cool is, so you start off in Corneria, which is the first stage, right? And you beat the stage, whatever. But what's really interesting is that almost every stage has an alternate way to beat it, and it'll give you a secret path to a new level. So I played the game like 500 times without ever knowing that there was another way to beat other levels. And then so, like, the very first level, there's a part where Falco is getting chased by a bunch of different starships, and you gotta save him. If you don't save him, his ship ends up breaking down, and he has to retreat to get his ship repaired. If you do save him, though, he says, I guess I should be thankful. And then you continue the level. But even then, nothing happens. But if you save Falco, and then there's a part in the level where there's little hoops, if you perfectly fly through all of the hoops, Falco says, like, pretty smooth flying, Fox. And then if you make it through all of them, he'll say, follow me, Fox. And it'll take you on an alternate path. And you go through an alternate path, and there's a completely different boss for the first level. That, like, there's no way to even know about unless you do like these things. And
I like that.
you fight this boss, and it brings you to a completely different second level than where you usually go. And all of the levels have these alternate victory conditions that'll bring you to different branching paths, see different parts of the story, different worlds, and then when you finally get to the end, there's like the true ending where if you don't get the true ending, you make it to Venom and you fight Andross, who's the final boss. And when you beat him, he turns into like a robot, and they're like, "What the fuck?" And then like you beat him, and then you think
is he like a big head?
Yeah, he's like a big ass monkey head.
Yeah.
And then when you kill him, he turns into like a robot face, and then you got to kill him again. And you're like, "What the hell?" And then you rush the credits, and when the credits end, Andross' face shows up, and he starts laughing at you, and you're like, "What the hell?" And then the game ends. But if you beat the game and finally find the secret path and make it to the true ending, you fight Andross, you fight his true form, you kill him, and then like you get the true ending and shit. The game is so cool. You can high score run the game. It's a game where every time you beat it, you get a score, and you put your name in. And I remember
so your friends can compete with you too.
Your friends can compete with you. I remember at a time, I used to tell my friends, "I'll give you $5 if you can even make it into the 10th spot. If you can make it on the 10th spot of my leaderboard, I'll give you fucking $5 or whatever." Because I played that game so much, I had just like
your scores were just crazy.
High, like so many high scores, yeah. And I was like, be 10th place. I dare you.
Get on the leaderboard.
Get on the leaderboard, because I fucking played the shit out of that game. I had a friend come over years later. This is like we at this point we have the PS3 and the Wii. I had a friend come over to my house. He was talking shit, and he was saying like how he's the best at Star Fox and all this other stuff. And I was like, I've been waiting my whole life for this. Yeah. I fucking invited him over, and I was like, become number 10. Become number 10. And he couldn't do it. He was like, "What the fuck?" I didn't let him look at my leader.
Hey guys, if you like this clip, we have full video versions of our podcast episodes available on the I Am Nerd Patreon, as well as exclusive content.
If you'd like to listen to our full podcast episodes or find us on any other social media platforms, you can do so by clicking the link tree below.